BAP it up, baby.
Hello and welcome to the BAP. This is episode 43 for the 21st of February 2016. We are broadcasting from the Progressive Bubble, where on this day in 1965, Malcolm X is assassinated at the Audubon Ballroom in New York City, where he was shot multiple times by 3 Nation of Islam followers.
Heavy.
Very much so. My name is Franco.
I'm Brother Jason.
I'm Dean. I'm not gonna go there.
Not Dean X.
I don't know. Is Brother Jason being like a Brotherhood of Islam thing?
Yeah, it was always Brother Malcolm.
Yeah, I understand. So are you taking the side of the killers in this instance?
Well, Malcolm X was...
This is how you lose the black vote.
Malcolm X was Nation of Islam.
I know.
So.
He was, but he had left by the time he was assassinated by the NOI insurgents at the Audubon. It's usually at this time of the show where we ask fellow BAP presenters, do they have any douchebag filterage?
I do a little bit. I've already sent this to you, fellow BAP presenters, via email. But there's a fantastic series called Wizards of Oz, US for Australia, about refugees from a magical kingdom seeking to come to Australia to live. And it's just been released on the web. It's on YouTube. You can watch it for free, and it's amazing. And the production values are really good.
Yeah.
The script's pretty good. It's got familiar faces in it.
Did I actually send it on to you? Because after I watched it, I went, wow, this released on YouTube, and its production values were almost as good as that Shannara series I was telling you
And you said
about.
the scripts were better.
And the scripts were better, yeah.
So who's bankrolling this show? Because I
remember
also
Guy
found...
Pearce.
SBS, I think it was. It was originally on SBS, but
yeah,
I don't know if they
SBS,
bankrolled the whole thing.
Okay.
SBS is one of the partners, yeah.
Right, yeah, because even I thought... Well, when I first saw Wizards of Oz, I was immediately going to show in production, I'm out of here. But because Dean said, quite...
Quality, I think, is how I
the
describe it.
handsome praise he gave for the shuffle, I'll give it a go. I do have the nerd calling in me, and it was quite good. And especially Guy Pearce's contribution to the show.
Yeah.
He's an amazing character.
I
he
enjoy
plays.
the bit. I love how sarcastic the wizard is at the start when that dragon shows up and he's like, "Don't run towards it."
I know
Oh, great,
it's-
you're running towards it.
Yeah. Look, don't run towards it. I know it's for the king, and they go, for the king!
I do love the little tidbits on is it the right angle? The show, and they got little 45-degree measurement on his trigger finger.
Now you have last word, last rise, 10 seconds.
It was quality.
It was great.
It was quality.
It was
People
well
should
done.
watch it. It's good to see Australian film that I am happy about too. Normally, I'm quite
Hey, have you watched it all the way through yet?
not yet.
Okay.
This is my treat for later today.
I won't spoil it. It's good.
Yeah, I've only watched the first episode, which was very good.
Well, they're only 13-minute episodes. Come on, people.
Look, I understand. 13 minutes is all I had time available.
In this 24-hour Netflix binge watching, have you seen it already?
Look, I had to get a lot of stuff organised on Friday night
Of course.
for Saturday morning, so I didn't have time to watch
is-
too much
which is more
television because I
douchebag
was
filter,
nerding out.
obviously, yeah.
So
I was
that's how it
also nerding out along with you.
Mm.
Unsuccessfully, though.
I did really well considering we were playing Star Trek Attack Wing, little miniatures, and it was a competition, first one we'd ever done, and I took out 3rd place,
Congratulations.
which a lot of victories by default for me, unfortunately. Like, you got to score points for killing things. If you don't kill anything, which happened in 2 of my 3 games, you can get other objective points, which no one else bothered to do except me. So victory by default.
So taking a step back for listeners who might not be familiar with Star Wars Attack Wing,
Star Trek.
it's got
Live long and prosper.
as a
Played Star Trek. May the
casual
force be with you.
observer of this game basically involves little toys moving around on this.
Little toys on a table. Yep.
Yes, and what's the best way to explain it?
It's. Ooh.
Should you try to explain it to someone who still calls Dungeons and Dragons dress-ups? Should you even bother?
Well, I don't know. It's just a tabletop miniature game. It's a really accessible war game. Normally with war games, you buy like large amounts of miniatures and you have to hand paint them yourself. And this doesn't have. You don't have to hand paint things. It's all pretty much done, and it's over in about half an hour to an hour each game. It's
pretty simple.
It's pretty simple and straightforward. And if you like Star Trek, it's kind of thematic a lot of the time.
I suppose if you played Battleship when you were a younger child or so forth, it's probably an expansion of that idea with the tangible
it
little
has-
pieces.
Except
Almost-
things can move around. Yeah,
Has almost nothing to do with nothing in common with Battleship.
there are ships and they battle.
Well, as opposed to guessing where a ship is on a grid,
I
you're
understand that.
moving.
I was just being nerd elite for a moment.
But anyway, good fun. And also, there's no Star Trek on television, so I need to get my dose somehow. This fills it in for me.
So you came in third. Jason, where did you come in?
Not exactly the bottom, but pretty close.
I think 7th.
Because I mean,
eight.
there were 8 people. I lost 2 games and I won 1. So I'm not the bottom, but close. I guess the guy I played against came at the bottom because he was the other person who'd won no other games. So.
Yeah, I guess so. He won none then.
He won none.
Overall.
Well, I don't really have any douchebag filterage. My week was free of any nerdy pursuits or television watching.
I feel very sorry for you.
The only thing I've been watching, and I'm almost embarrassed to bring this up, was been Vikings.
Oh, the new season now, isn't it?
Well, I only just started with the first season,
Oh,
so
right.
I'm fairly behind.
You're at start.
Yeah.
I've only seen the first season of Vikings.
It's actually, the first seas's good. The second
Yeah.
season, I thought lost its way a little bit.
I think I watched the first episode in a bit. And
Yeah.
I struggled with it and stopped.
But I'm interested to see where they go with the third, if they can pull it back in a little bit.
The first season I thought was interesting because they do all the bits where they show you, because it's on the History Channel, and then so they're navigating with the things floating, and it's kind of nice. So they're like, oh yeah, this is vaguely historical.
Yeah.
And then it just gets a bit...
They use some historical names.
Yeah.
So that and the time period is about when those people might have lived.
Yeah.
And that's about all they have.
And
in common.
as it went on, I was like, this doesn't feel entirely like it's historically accurate. I mean, I'm sure it's taking some liberties.
I think they do move into the supernatural a little bit and stuff
Yeah,
like
they
that as
did.
well. So
They did.
Actually, there was one epic thing that happened this week, and I'm going to do the right thing for once and say, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the return to season of The Walking Dead, you might want to stop now.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, that ends that section.
You can spoil it. It's
No,
fine.
no. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to say anything.
Jason
We'll
was telling
move
me
on.
it's very faithful to the comics.
it's actually
He was
it
pretty
takes
pleased with it.
takes a fairly pivotal scene from the comics and recreates it pretty accurately in compared to other things that it's done.
This was also something on my list of things to watch tonight. I meant to watch it today before I got here. I didn't.
Okay.
No, what did you think? Did you like the episode?
I loved it. And I agree with some of the criticism of it. There was some criticisms about scale.
yeah.
Yeah, and in the end, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I acknowledged it, but it didn't really.
We
hamper
can't
my
say anything else
experience.
because Dean's looking at us and he's. and,
Yeah.
I don't. Look, the thing about The Walking Dead is I love it, but I also hate the show at the same time because it is so ridiculous in some scenes and then so slow paced for like episodes at a time afterwards. It frustrates me, the pacing issues it has.
Yeah, it is all over the shop, isn't it?
So a lot of the time, I usually wait for there to be like 1 or 2 episodes to watch back to back.
So
that
you're
I can
not-
just if there's a pacing issue in one episode, I get something good in the next one. Because they never do like back to back, nothing happens. But every now and then they'll be like, and nothing fucking happens this episode.
So I think it was a good return to season. Let's hope it's not going to. When people were talking about this season at the beginning, they were all the producers of the show saying we're really proud of it. It's really fast paced this time around. No, that didn't happen at all. The first couple of episodes were pretty fast paced, and then
then
slowed
slow
down again.
Yeah, and they're moving into a section of the comics which is in the late sort of area of the comics that I'd sort of read up to, and they're starting to introduce a few elements from that, which I'm interested to see what they do with it because they've normally departed quite extravagantly from.
And it's
certain
a
plots.
complicated section of the comic books. You're dealing with a lot of factions, and how do you sort of mete out?
Have you
those
read the
factions?
comics as well?
I've read the synopsises
Okay.
on Wikipedia, so I know potentially where
Yeah.
the show's going, and it goes pretty deep. And you got
Yeah.
multiple factions who have a level of depth to their story to it.
And they kind of move into a different phase of the post-zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a new phase kind of thing. Because it must be a year or so after? I don't know. It's not like the same timeline.
Carl's way bigger than he was. I feel like it's 5 years later
It could be. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because
he was a kid.
Yeah.
Judith, however, still seems to be staying a baby for quite a while. So there's some sort of time dilation in effect here.
Being that as it may, it might be time to move on into the serious segment of the show, quintessential short, fast news.
Sounds good.
I'm going to launch right into the results of the Republican South Carolina primary. It was a primary of Trump. So he received 32.5% of the vote. And the next candidate was Rubio, 22.5%.
I like how no one's calling him Rubio Bot now because let's be honest,
That was short-lived, wasn't it?
it really was short. He managed to just shrug that off pretty quickly.
Yeah. I guess when you're in a competition with someone like Trump, there's always some new extravagant outrage to be following. So
Yeah.
any single one's just not going to last that
Well,
long.
I thought it would be the end of him, and it wasn't. Well, it hasn't been yet, anyway.
Not yet. Cruz was right behind him at 22.3% of the vote. Then you had the rest all hovering around the 7% mark. Bush,
Sorry,
Kasich, and Carson.
What was Trump's margin again?
He was
10
about
points.
he was about a third, yeah,
Okay.
of all votes.
So yeah, you got 32.5%, and he was 10 points ahead of
2 in a
Rubio.
row. That's got to have a few people scared.
Two of
It
the big
does.
ones do.
And this was the firewall state. So Trump took all 44 delegates from this state. He got everything. Everyone else got nada.
Oh, it's a winner
That's
take
just
all.
how Trump
is it?
likes to do business.
He does. And he probably said nada so that Rubio and Cruz could understand, although there's some debate whether Cruz could understand Spanish. But
Did you catch that in the debate where
Yeah, I
Rubio accused Cruz of not being able to speak Spanish? So then Cruz just immediately responded in Spanish. I don't know what he said, but it was a challenge.
What if he didn't actually say anything in Spanish? It was just nonsense with an accent. And Rubio Bot's like, what? Does not compute.
I did want to talk a little bit about Trump's appearance on the debate beforehand. Where was that debate?
No, he wasn't on that debate beforehand. He did one by himself, didn't he? He did a town hall on his own, on his lonesome.
There was another one where Rubio. This was just like 4 days ago.
Trump did one by himself. He didn't attend that debate, I thought.
Okay. Because
It was Rubio, Cruz, and it was the cast of others.
Jebra.
so Jeb was there.
Jeb was there for that one. Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Donald Trump going after sacred cows. So we're not quite sure which debate it was. There's a bit of a timeline. I couldn't, in my prep, find the exact debate it was, but it was within the last two debates, even though that Trump didn't go to one, the Fox one. However, nonetheless, it was quite interesting, some of the questions that that Trump dealt with and how he slaughtered some of the sacred cows. So
I was going to say, Jeb dealing with anything is a bit, it's an oxymoron.
Give me a break.
Yeah, come on, Jeb, bro.
there was a situation where the beleaguered Bush addressed the attacks during the debate on Saturday, adding, this was in reference to a lot of the attacks on Bush bringing out his mother as part of his campaign, saying, my mum is the strongest woman I know.
That's right.
Trump rebutted, she should be running. Oh, that was
She's the
gold.
only Bush who might stand a chance of getting elected.
He also went after George W. One of the presenters asked, did Trump think that George W. Bush should have been impeached for going into Iraq? And Trump was basically saying, call it what you want. At the end of the day, they lied.
Yeah.
There were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
It's one of those things that everyone's known the truth forever now, and yet no one will say it. It's just, as you said, it's one of those sacred cows. You don't bring it up. We don't talk about it. We just ignore that that's what happened. And they still carry on like the original reason, which was weapons of mass destruction, was a valid reason for going in. Everyone just ignores that there were none found and they were never there.
He also went after the often quoted statement that George Bush kept us safe. He went, 911 went, 9/11 towers went down under George Bush. Didn't keep us safe.
Apparently 9/11 rates a mulligan in their books. It's like,
See,
you can get a mulligan for that.
I know they didn't find any weapons of mass destruction, but I'm pretty sure they probably knew that Saddam did have some because they sold him those weapons to use against Iran.
They sold chemical weapons.
They just didn't
but,
believe him that he'd actually destroyed them.
Yeah, but then again, they had their own people on the ground telling them, we don't know where they are. To all intents and
don't seem to be
purposes,
here.
they aren't here. There's nothing here. We have no
But there
reason
were
to
also
suspect
certain
otherwise.
sites that the Saddam
Actually, no.
regime wouldn't let them into.
They actually.
But they were palaces.
They had free reign to go in, and they were going to all the sites that they wanted to get to. And yeah, there was some quid pro quo
Shenanigans.
and that, but they would. I mean, their own people were saying we don't think there are any here,
Yeah.
and they were just ignoring it.
But it's also in Saddam's interest to make it look like maybe he does have some, so that his enemies in the region don't
it's
think he's a toothless tiger.
the same reason Iran pretended to have a nuclear weapons program, because it was in their in their interest to let everyone think they had one. So yeah, but there was no. I mean, there's been no evidence.
How's your nuclear weapons program going?
It's in the early stages. Yeah, still
Very,
waiting.
very early stages.
Still need that fissionable material.
Hey,
You're about infinity years away from actually attaining
That's all right.
nuclear powerhood. So this is probably a good point to look over the fence at what was happening at the.
Oh, hang on, but
Democratic
the 9/11 issue.
Sorry, yes.
Where he brought that up and he was booed in that debate,
Yes.
for bringing it up, and it was like, no, that's when it happened. It was during George Bush's, and they carry on like if it had happened in Obama's presidency or Clinton's presidency, would everyone have just ignored it and pretended like, oh, it was the first 9 months of their presidency? Clearly, they had nothing to do with it. And even when there was evidence that showed that George Bush had received warning from the CIA saying that something's going to happen, and he totally ignored it. So Trump was absolutely right. This is one thing that makes him so popular is he comes out and says shit like this that everyone knows is true and has been afraid to say.
It's interesting you mentioned the booing because in that debate, Trump made mention that it apparently seemed that the audience had been stacked. He was saying, the only people I've got in this audience today is my wife and my daughter.
Yeah, because there was a lot of the interest groups and backers and donors and that for Jebra and probably Marco Rubio and stuff like that. And yeah, they just flat out booed him. And the interesting thing was Trump quite happy to get in there and attack the audience because he knows he doesn't care. He doesn't care what they say. He's worried about the people watching the show.
Yeah, exactly. it also looks good for his core
it's
constituency.
fantastic.
And it's quite refreshing to have a politician who actually says the honest truth. Like, as much as I don't agree with his conclusions on a lot of things, it's still nice when they're like, no, this is what happened. This is the truth. And you're like, yeah, he's not wrong.
And it just goes to show to use shorthand for those people in the audience, the establishment, don't understand what is happening. They don't understand that Trump is popular because he's not them. And so when you got a Trump and a Sanders popping up and people are starting to throw around the idea that maybe a Bloomberg can come in and solve this problem, they're not understanding that establishment billionaires is not what people want. They just don't get it. Anyway.
They want non-establishment billionaires.
Non-establishment billionaires or a poor socialist.
Yeah.
Either one will do. But yeah, we'll step over to the Democratic caucus in Nevada, which Hillary Clinton won by, I think, at the moment,
5%.
current count's about 5%, which is a solid win. But it's one of these caucus where the delegates are split, so they're going to get almost half each.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So it's not that bad.
It's not that big a deal. This was also, Hillary Clinton up until 3 months ago had a 30 or 40 point lead in Nevada, and that just disappeared. The Sanders people seem to be taking it. I mean, everyone had a little bit of, they had the wind up and they were expecting to, I guess they were hoping for a win, but it was always going to be an uphill battle to get one there. But they did pretty well. I mean, it's a caucus, so it's kind of hard. Their caucus system is so convoluted that it's kind of hard to say, especially from just polls, as to how it's going to go, because there's rounds of voting, there's debating, there's people getting to cajole the other people at the caucus to try and win them over, and there's all sorts of complications. There's card draws to see who wins. So you maybe remember from the Iowa caucus, some places were decided on a coin toss. They got rid of that. It was high card draw.
Well, you also had probably Ted Cruz's telephone box saying that Bernie was pulling out.
That would have been interesting. So Hillary Clinton got a solid win, and it was interesting. Some of the commentary coming out after that was very interesting commentary, I found anyway, because I've been following it fairly closely, and the language from the different campaigns has been very controlled. Up until now, they've been still dismissing the idea that Hillary's campaign had been dismissing the idea that Bernie had momentum. But then an interesting sort of comment came out after this where she won this one. They said, this stems the bleeding. They never acknowledged that they were ever bleeding before this.
Wow.
They were clearly worried. And they're going into South Carolina, which is obviously very favoured for Hillary to win. But it's kind of interesting in that I know that Hillary Clinton won Nevada against Obama last time around. So it's not something that, this
doesn't really mean anything, does it?
It does mean, it's important because it's all about building momentum and which way momentum is swinging at this point in the campaign, because really that's what Bernie's relying on to get over.
She took a 30-point lead and turned it into a 5, so momentum's not necessarily swinging her way.
So it's still not in her, but they were coming off a big New Hampshire win, so everyone had the Bernie campaign. At least Bernie was probably realistic and his campaign was realistic, but certainly his supporters were kind of hoping
Loonies.
for a big win. Yeah.
I think one of the things to consider about South Carolina is heavily within the Bible Belt, and
it's
as far as
it relies a lot more on
religiously influenced Democrats. Who do they see as their candidate?
I don't know anything about that, but certainly because the religiously influenced in the southern states tend to be more Republican than anything else. In South Carolina, there's a lot more of the black vote that matters. And up until this point, everyone assumes that Hillary Clinton has the black vote sewn up. However, that's not necessarily been proven to be true. So it's a very big assumption, much like the assumption that she was going to win New Hampshire and win Iowa by a big margin and stuff like that. So these things have yet to be tested.
So in Nevada, did she win the minority vote?
I believe she did win the minority vote there. So Hispanic, Latino, and Black, yeah. For the most part, yes. And now they move on to South Carolina in a week's time. And then following that, I mean, Bernie's in it through South Carolina. Then there's the big 12 state in one day Super Tuesday on March the 3rd, I think, something like that. In which case, that's the point at which you get a good idea of whether someone's going to win or not. But even with the Obama-Hillary campaign in 2008, it still wasn't decided even after Super Tuesday. There was still up in the air as to who was going to
Hillary wasn't willing to give up.
No, she wasn't.
So the one thing you guys haven't mentioned is that Jebra suspended his campaign.
Yeah, he's gone.
That came out of the Republican
$100 million and nothing to show for it, but disappointment for the Bush name.
Yeah, I guess
is it really disappointment for the Bush name? I mean, W wasn't the best, was he? Is the bar that high? I don't know.
Well, the bar for the family is to get into office, and he can get into office. So,
well, Jebra was already a governor, wasn't he? In Florida,
but he's not in the big boy club.
Ooh.
He's not now, and I think the idea was he was hoping to get his son into the big boy club. Yeah. The idea was to manage that legacy onto the next member of the dynasty,
next generation.
And it was interesting that until Obama, there had been for 25 years there had been a Bush or a Clinton in the White House, which is kind of like talking about dynasties where there's constant just certain families controlling the White House is crazy. But
in a nation of nearly 300 million people. All that can serve up is two families.
Exactly, isn't it great? Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated by this. This is absolutely, it's like reality TV for me. I'm really enjoying it, and I'll probably keep watching it for the next couple of weeks again.
Yeah. So this is not political news, which is going to disappoint people.
Boo.
But this week, Apple CEO Tim Cook took to their website to publish a pretty detailed and thought-out release as to why they were not going to be complying with the court order, or at least challenging it. So the FBI was trying to compel them to produce a cracked version of their operating system so they could use that to access the data stored upon a device that they had retrieved from the San Bernardino terrorists. I totally squished the name of that. And also access the iCloud. So both sides have then also took the internet to basically push their cause, with Apple rightly claiming that the very existence of a cracked version of the OS would completely undermine the security of all their users, and the FBI and the Department of Justice saying that really this is about protecting Americans fighting terrorists and it represents a reasonable request to access a single device. The FBI have on their side Donald Trump, who has seen Apple. How dare they deny the government? Who do they think they are? Also, our own Darth Brandis came out in support
I believe
of the FBI.
Trump actually tweeted out his opinion about Apple
Wouldn't surprise me.
On an Apple iPhone, which is, I mean,
A little ironic.
But then it's Trump. Who cares?
So Darth Brandis came out and said, look, court orders have to be followed to the letter. People have to do this, which is ironic, as Frank mentioned on email to me earlier, considering his own refusal to release his diary.
This is it's interesting because I mean it's all very well that you can compel maybe Apple to crack the encryption on one machine, right? But to then make them compromise their product, to write a product that is broken in a certain way, so that the FBI can use it. That's something entirely different. To compel a company to do that.
I think that's the problem though. At the moment, they can't get the data off. So what they want is Apple to release a new update. So that
with a backdoor
update, but that affects everyone's.
Yeah.
Well, they want to issue an update that will only be applied to that one device, allegedly. But the very existence of that update means you could apply it to other devices.
Exactly.
And my favourite reaction from all of this was from John McAfee, the internet cybersecurity legend, who offered his personal services and said he'd be able to have it cracked within 3 weeks if they were interested. The guy is a bit of a rock star. He says all these crazy things, but I would kind of believe he could do this. He's planning to use social engineering. I don't know how he's going to use social engineering to target some pretty extreme isolationist Muslim couples' friends and work out what their passwords are. But I commend him for willing to get involved.
He wants to use social engineering.
He wants to use social engineering. But then he might just be saying that out loud. He doesn't give up his secrets.
Because it's not like McAfee's a social engineering expert. He's a...
Yeah, he's a cybersecurity expert. But hey, you don't know what he does in his free time.
Okay.
You don't know. Maybe he goes to these little crazy get-togethers and people socially engineer each other. If you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's all I've got in that story for the moment. It's one to watch. Because obviously it affects everyone.
Why is it that someone like Darth Brandis, who allegedly is quite intelligent, can say such stupid things? Because unfetteredly.
Yeah, he does it a lot, though.
A lot.
Do you remember when he tried to describe metadata?
Oh, yes.
I think he's a smart guy who has he just has no respect for his constituents. So it's like, I can say whatever the fuck I want because no one's going to care. No one's going to even notice for the most part.
I think he's just not that technologically adept. Like
Maybe,
he's a smart guy that just doesn't know.
I mean, he's a smart guy who could find out if he wanted to. I just don't. I think he thinks that it doesn't matter. The Australian public, for the most part, will not even notice.
Or alternatively go, you know what? I don't really know enough about this to comment on it. You know, that's a simple...
Yeah. I mean, to be fair,
as I said, that's a responsible thing to do.
He went on to a news interview and then they asked him, what does metadata mean? It was an interview about the new metadata laws that are passing. And he said very first question, what is metadata? He could not answer.
He said something about the internet being a series of tubes.
Like...
Pizza, reg dog.
It was just astounding how poorly prepared he was. Yeah.
As I said, I think he's a smart guy who could figure these. I'm sure he could learn.
Well, maybe we should get him to crack the phone.
I just don't think he has any respect for the Australian people. That he just doesn't think it's going to matter that he doesn't know these things. So,
well, moving on to the final. Is it the final bit of short fast news?
I only have one with me this week.
Okay, so it's the final short fast news.
It's going to be a mostly short fast news.
Do you remember the marriage equality plebiscite that the Turnbull government wanted to have?
The Abbott Golden Year government wanted to have originally.
Was it? I thought it was part of the Turnbull. So it was Abbott who...
It was Abbott who pushed for a plebiscite.
Okay. Well, anyway, Turnbull's going ahead with it anyway to placate the hardliners, and obviously... I don't know how he looks himself in the mirror over that one, but... You know, the plebiscite that has is not legally binding. It's like a practice exam. Anyway,
it's expensive practice exam.
$160 million practice exam. Well, advocates for the no vote on same-sex marriage are calling for the federal government to override anti-discrimination laws during the future plebiscite campaign. That would be the Australian Christian lobby. Serial offenders.
So what are they wanting to do?
Oh, they want to protect Australia from the puffs. And they weren't able to say that out loud without people saying that that's horribly inappropriate.
That's pretty much it. They want to be able to say whatever they want to support their position.
I'm kind of torn on this subject because I happen to think, let them say that. I want to know someone that's going to use the word puffs. I want to know that they use that word so I know how to judge them appropriately.
Yeah, I felt dirty saying that.
I just, in some ways, these anti-vilification, all those kind of things, I don't know. I'm not a free speech absolutist, but I think we need to be a little bit more along the lines of the American way, where you can't be busted for that kind of thing.
Well, it goes back to Trump. Like, it's refreshing to hear someone say the truth. Like, if you speak genuinely, honestly about how you feel, even if I disagree with you, at least I know where you stand.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know where you stand.
And I want to know that that's how those people feel. I want to know that.
Well, I would like to think it would apply both ways, though. So maybe you can point out that, you know, these people who read a book that was written by a bunch of dudes that didn't know where the sun went at night, and they believe this book as being the source of truth, that this is how they feel. Because you can judge them on that. Because I can point at them and go, they don't know where the sun went at night. Why are you believing this shit?
Yeah. I guess, but you got to draw the line where, once again, let's go back to Trump, where the kind of shit that he's saying is inciting violence against some groups of people, and is actually, so the people in his own rallies are starting to beat up like black activists and that are in there, and they just assault them. Basically, it's just assault. So you've got language, you got freedom of speech to allow people to say that. So these people want to suspend those laws during the plebiscite, which I don't know, that kind of speech could incite violence, I guess. But
yeah, I can understand that point of view. I would also suggest, though, that if you have to base your argument on circumventing the anti-discrimination laws, perhaps there's a core problem with your argument.
No. Yeah. I'm quite happy, and let's have that debate when they present it. I mean, if they're going to say that stuff.
I also think, though, if someone's so close to bursting out violence that all it takes is a few little words, they were probably going to be violent anyway. Maybe not right away, but eventually.
They were looking.
There's some tensions.
They were looking
for
a reason, weren't they? Yeah.
They're just looking for a reason.
But in this case, I mean, as I said, I've got a bit of a fundamental disagreement with these laws to begin with that we have.
Well, I can come up with a reasonable compromise. How about we do this? Australian Christian lobby, we'll suspend the anti-discrimination laws, but we're going to up the plebiscite to a referendum. Done deal.
So it's official one way or the other.
Yeah.
Look, that's interesting, except what if it goes the wrong way? You can't actually discriminate against people. It's horribly wrong.
It has done that before, Frank.
Most referendums come back as a no.
But I'm saying, on the contrary, though, having the plebiscite and giving the Australian Christian lobby a free pass is like stacking it. So even they get to say what they want with a vote that doesn't count.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
even
but-
if they lose, it doesn't matter.
and Dean's point is, at least if we get a no vote this time, it won't mean anything.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that Australia isn't going to support the no position.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
Well, honestly, it depends how they phrase the question, because the no position might be, we support.
As Dean pointed out, let's look historically.
Yeah.
Australia has not always come down on the correct side of history on this.
It hasn't, but if, Catholic Ireland can do it, surely we can do it.
I agree. Surely we
Yeah,
can.
maybe. Do you know Britain's having a referendum soon to see if they want to leave the EU?
Yes, they are. BREXIT.
Actually, I was going to be bringing that up. I should have brought
Well,
that
I'm
up.
just saying, like, referendums sometimes can be over some
because
pretty hairy
James.
stuff.
Sorry.
No, go.
Can I
Go
step
on.
in it? So David Cameron announced that they will be doing their. He promised it in before the last election, I believe, and they will be having it in the next. I can't remember the date. Whether he gave a date, but it was definitely going to happen before 2017. And it was interesting. So I was watching some interviews where they were going around other countries, specifically Germany as well, and asking people about what they thought about the British exiting. And they go, well, they're not part of the euro. We still require passports to go there. They have all these special conditions about them being in there. Does it really
And David Cameron wants more special conditions
and,
as well.
And apparently he got them because he negotiated more of these special conditions so they don't have to bail out other members. They go, so why we got them in here, basically? Let them go. It won't cost us anything, they seem to think.
I thought another interesting stat I saw is that was from Scotland. If Britain leaves the Union, 60% of Scots want to stay. That's awesome. So they're like, wow, we did vote to not leave the UK, but maybe we'll just leave and become part of the EU.
Yeah, there seem to be some very real issues for Britain because if the Eurozone have tariffs on certain things and stuff like that for imports, and if Britain's outside of the EU, there was something like it could cost them 4% of their GDP, which is someone compared that and said, sorry, I may have the number wrong, 4 or 14.
That's a big difference.
It's a big dip. But basically, they were saying that's the same amount that Greece lost off their GDP in the 4 years after 2007.
Yeah, wow.
So they went.
I think it's more likely to be 14 than 4 then.
Yeah. Suddenly there was a bunch of people going, maybe we don't want to leave the euro. But there's up to the I think the last poll was there was a third of the British citizens want to leave, and they're citing all these bizarre reasons. They're going, they were interviewing some industry representatives, and they're saying that they were sick of all these regulations from Brussels, but they couldn't really cite any of these regulations specifically as to what was costing them.
Well, it's
so
because
much
they're
money.
so sick of them. They've stopped paying attention. Just, this endless run of legislation. I don't even care about it anymore. I just want to stop.
It's bizarre, yeah. I mean, and the interesting thing about the British exit is up until this point, everyone's been saying, well, Greece can't possibly exit, and Spain, if it gets too bad, they can't exit either. But if Britain goes, they're setting a precedent.
Yeah.
Who knows how long the euro lasts after
The
that?
hassle you get with any kind of referendum like this over something which is socially important is if it comes down to like a 51-49 sort of split and you leave with only really half the population wanting to go, or you stay with only really half the population wanting to stay, it's a fucking stupid thing to have a referendum about, as is the same-sex marriage issue. Because if it comes down at a split and it's like basically half the people are really fucking unhappy with the way the country's being run, just don't. Why did you do that? You've just poked the hornet's nest. You need to provide actual leadership and give people a message. We're going here, and this is why.
Yeah.
Whichever path you take.
I would argue, though, that the whole plebiscite referendum on gay marriage is nonsensical because why are people allowed to make a decision what other people do that has no effect on them?
This is an old question, isn't it?
I'm yet to be convinced that who someone marries, in what form, gender, and
doesn't affect
such.
anyone.
How does that affect me? It doesn't. Why do I need to have a plebiscite? let people marry whoever they want.
Well, you know why? It's because the Marriage Legislation Act was changed. That's why we have to.
But I
have
mean,
a
that's my
website.
point.
Or it was
Just
decided by
change
the
it.
courts.
We don't need to go to the people because you're not affected by it.
You're not thinking like a religious zealot
Yeah.
who really
Just
wants
the-
to.
Here's,
I
here-
appreciate
here's the thing. The system is currently set up in such a way that the people who are on the no vote are happy with, and they are also
Yeah.
part of the people in power right now. They don't really want things to change, but they're willing to make it look like they're trying to make things
Modern
change.
conservatism. That's
Yeah.
what they
But
don't
what
want.
I'm
to
sort of-
Drag our feet.
What I'm sort of
As long
getting
as
at
we
is
can.
when Dean was saying that when you get a situation of 51 versus 49 split vote
Yeah.
on a decision, but it depends what that decision affects. So Brexit does affect
Yeah, you're
the whole
right.
population of England.
Yeah.
There'll be industry.
Gay
and
marriage
there'll
does
be-
not affect
Yeah.
the whole population
I
of
can
any
tell you
country.
now, if it comes down as a no vote, it'll affect a lot of people.
You're right. If they leave the eurozone, people will lose jobs and things will happen. If we vote in gay marriage, nothing's going to happen to
No,
anyone
but
else.
if
Yeah,
you
you're exactly
vote
right.
to not have gay marriage,
It does affect people.
It
does
affects,
affect
but yeah,
people.
but well, it doesn't. It doesn't change the current situation. It's
Yeah,
those
but I
those
mean-
people are affected in the same way as they are now,
but
right?
how long are people going to sit around? Young people going to sit around and stay in a country where basically they're not.
No,
being listened to?
I agree. It's like it's crazy, and I can't believe it's taking us this long to come to terms with it. But
We
you're right.
We
it's-
should just be legislative process. Well, what are we doing? This
But-
is stupid. Change it. Don't need to ask the people. Doesn't affect most
except
of
for
them.
except for those that number of people that it directly affects, which is not the vast number of the population, it doesn't affect anyone else. So a no or yes vote, it's low stakes, if you know what I mean, for so many people.
Yeah.
Whereas Brexit is not low stakes for just
Exactly.
about anyone. Yeah, it's interesting. But the other thing in Cameron's announcement when he announced the referendum was he strongly sort of intimated that it was in Britain's best interest to maintain their alliances with the Eurozone to control Russian aggression, which, I don't know, it seems like a fairly high stakes thing to say for a prime minister to say. It just seems like that kind of language is being thrown around a lot more often these days, talking about Russian aggression and...
Wait, it's just a convenient boogeyman. Like, you need to have we're the goodies.
Yeah, but they
the
didn't.
baddies.
They haven't been bringing up this kind of thing. Russia has not been the boogeyman for a while. Like for a good after 1990, it was like
Yeah, but I
they
mean-
were a sideshow.
ISIS is crushed. They're capitulating. They're losing all their impact. You need a new boogeyman. Otherwise,
it's
how are you
probably-
going to justify the defence spending?
Probably not in the Cameron government's interest to start pulling back from their military deals and arrangements and so forth. And that's probably, they're sort of foreseeing that if they exit from the EU, then there may be calls to why are you
And some of the
militarily
some
being
of the
part of
domestic-
NATO and so forth.
some of the domestic politics at the moment is
Isolationist policies.
well, not so much that, but there's some direct question over whether they should maintain their nuclear fleet. And with a convenient Russian boogeyman, they will need to keep that nuclear fleet, obviously.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
Corbyn's come out and said he will dismantle it whenever he gets in. So he's flat out said, I'm not going to use it. I'm never going to use that, which may count against him for getting elected. But he basically said he won't use nuclear weapons. So
That's not a bad thing, though.
I think it's a great thing. It's just
Yeah.
there's a lot of hawks in those countries.
You'd think you keep one. Just
Yeah.
one.
I quite like how in New Zealand, we don't let nuclear ships into our territorial waters. I really like that. That's something we should be
there's never
saying. Just
been-
no, you can't come in.
There's never been a nation with a national leader who has a fleet of nuclear weapons, and the national leaders come out and said, "Not going to use them," because the whole idea of having nuclear weapons is that
I won't use them.
I'm going to use them, and that's
Mad. Mutually
yeah.
assured destruction.
That's right. So if one side is disarming themselves essentially by saying they won't use it, then it's an interesting situation.
My last story is a bit of a heavy one. So earlier this week, Pope Francis, who you guys make fun of me for liking, but anyway, Pope Francis, decent guy, spoke about the church's handling of child sex abuse cases. He went on the record describing them as a monstrosity because priests are consecrated to bring that child unto God. Now, internationally, these scandals have been in the news somewhat lately after a French priest told a Vatican course of new bishops that they don't have to report suspected abuse to the police. The Vatican leadership pretty quickly crushed that idea and came out and said, look, you have an ethical and moral obligation to report suspected pedophiles to the civilian authorities, and any bishops who step in and change a parish of a suspected pedophile should promptly submit their resignations. Now, this all has something of a local implication because right now, Cardinal George Pell is due to appear before the Royal Commission into Child Sex Abuses, actually technically on the February the 29th. This will be his third such appearance, and he'll be giving testimony via video conference because he's too sick to travel. He previously gave testimony in person in March of 2014, and again in video conference in August of that year. Now, the Royal Commission has been hearing all kinds of evidence from the survivors of these abuse cases, and their allegations include that George Pell was overheard jokingly about convicted pedophile Gerard Ridsdale rooting boys again, well over a decade before he was actually charged with anything. Pell was also allegedly present for and possibly participating in a meeting of senior priests when they decided to move Gerald to a new parish, although Pell denies of having any idea at the time of what Ridsdale was up to.
He has no recollection.
Indeed, Pell even offered defence as a character witness at Ridsdale's first trial in 93. Sort of seems like history might be repeating itself a little bit, because this weekend the Melbourne Archbishop Dennis Hart has come out in defence of George Pell after it's been leaked to the media that the police have been investigating Pell for around about a year after numerous victims have come forward suggesting that he sexually abused them while he was a priest at Ballarat, and later again when he was the Archbishop of Melbourne. Hart has condemned the leaks, suggesting that it is all designed to do maximum damage to the credibility of the church and to George Pell himself ahead of his testimony. He also went on to say that it was concerning and disturbing that his friend had to find out about these allegations through the media rather than by police, and that ultimately it seems that the presumption of innocence has been taken away in this case. This week, also, Australian comedian Tim Minchin released a charity song seeking to encourage Cardinal Pell to come home and testify before the Royal Commission in person. Well, it seems that maybe he'll be compelled to come home for other reasons. I believe the police are on their way to talk to him. This is all coming to light today, actually. I imagine he's going to feel a bit of pressure. So, not a great day, although maybe a good day for people who are looking for justice. I don't know.
So the lesson from that, I think, is...
Don't touch young boys.
Who was defending Cardinal Pell?
Dennis Hart, the current...
I think they should immediately start investigating him.
Yeah, well, he hasn't moved him around, but it looks like Pell was at least involved with deciding to move another pedophile around, if not actually...
Well, it sounds like he was actually involved.
Involved. They were priests at the same parish in Ballarat.
This is quite a disaster for the Vatican, because George Pell holds quite a senior position in the Vatican ranks. I think he administrates the finances in the bank. He was brought in to clean it up with great regard, apparently. Yeah. I'm also going to go into tinfoil hat mode.
Sure.
Georgie boy, was putting up quite a fight to avoid coming back to Australia.
Yeah.
I wonder if perhaps he knew of this secret police investigation into his past.
He really didn't want to come home, did he?
No, and now this seems even to add fuel to the fire of why he fought so hard to give testimony. Perhaps it wasn't giving testimony that was the issue. But
I think T-Bone tipped him off.
Well, he may have known that if he came back, that he may have been arrested and charged as part of this new investigation that we just heard about.
I mean, George has, to his credit, said he will cooperate with police and answer the questions in this and any of their investigations.
As opposed to saying, I'm not going to cooperate at all.
They have investigated him in the past, and he was exonerated of those charges. So you never know. He may be exonerated again, but not a good look for the Vatican, for the Catholic Church, for George Pell, for Dennis Hart, for any of them, really.
Yeah, I mean...
Good look for the Pope, though, if he does something about this. It's Pope into you, Francis.
Yeah, George Pell's handling of these issues over the past 10 years hasn't been exactly stellar.
No.
He's cooperated. I'm using my
quotation
fingers here.
Hand signals, great on radio.
But it seems under his reign that a lot more empathy's been given to the perpetrators rather than the victims.
Yeah, they definitely seem to be looking out for the church's interests rather than... even with Dennis Hart, he was like, this is bad for the church. It's like, who fucking cares if it's bad for the church? If this actually happened, it needs to be resolved.
Yeah, it sounds like there was a level of enthusiasm in that cooperation that may have been missing.
And you think with... Obviously, the Vatican have had a lot of experience in this, and you think they would have had, a high-powered PR firm advising them on how they should respond when these sort of things leak out, and probably going hard against the police and so forth is probably not the best approach. Maybe perhaps a lower key.
Yeah. Condemning leakers as well, not a good thing.
Exactly.
How dare someone leak this? It's like, really? Because it's pretty serious. I can see why people would want to know.
It makes no sense. It's like, everyone knows that the Catholic Church has a significant problem with priests fiddling with kids. So it's not
or at least historically has. Hopefully they've done something about it.
One would hope. That they've had issues with this. So it's not unreasonable for these sort of allegations to come out. So it's not unreasonable that it would be leaked.
Mm.
And their reaction to say, how dare they? It's like, well, no, people are pretty sensitive about
touching kids is not
crimes
good.
perpetrated against children. No, guys.
And if you've got a system that does not allow justice to be done within that system, then people will leak because there will be good people there that will do it.
It's more of a simplification.
Well, they want to see justice. They're
Yeah.
like, well, if nothing's going to happen,
You'd think that rather than George Pell commentating, they'd have the Vatican PR going. The Vatican takes all charges of this nature very seriously, and the Vatican and George Pell will be cooperating with the authorities.
yeah, I expect we'll see a bit more about this coming out over the next couple of days because this is pretty hot off the press stuff. At the moment.
Yes, and I think there'll be certain politicians not exactly happy to be dealing with this because obviously George Pell has significant connections within the coalition party and so forth, and there's going to be some resistance to. Let's say there is enough evidence that the police do want to charge him and extradite him.
But it's an ongoing investigation over every year, so you'd think they'd have some pretty. You think they have a fair backlog of evidence right now?
And there'll be some diplomatic difficulties of trying to extradite a high-ranking Vatican cardinal.
Well,
to Australia.
after the Pope coming out and saying this, I can't see how there will be. If we submit a request like, "Hey, Francis, you know that bit you were saying about people who shield pedophiles being evil? Can we have George, please?"
Well, to finish off on a more jovial note, did you see that Tony Abbott stuck the boot into Bronwyn Bishop?
No.
Endorsing her opponent for pre-selection.
He's probably got a bit of anger over that because the Bronny Copter scandal probably brought him down.
Probably did.
Couple of
AXIT was one of them, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was really
It was part of the pylon.
He's a loyal man. Like you give him credit for where credit's due. He's loyal to his friends, and he was waiting for her to do the right thing, and she just didn't do it. He was like, "Come on, Bronwyn. I can only smile and look like a dickhead for so long.
How many taps?
Most of my life."
How many taps on the shoulder does Bronwyn need to know that it's time to move on?
She's wanting to fight terrorism. Remember?
Yeah.
She's busy fighting terrorism.
I mean, Tony himself is going to stand for pre-selection as well, though. So, how many taps does he need? This is a zombie movie, a double tap.
Well, they are the politicians that won't die.
Yeah, it's true.
And is Greg Hunt still the world's best minister?
I think he is still the world's best minister. Look, he's always going to be the
I think we need
world's
to
best
do a
minister in
checkup
my eyes.
every week to make sure, is he still the
Hunt
world's
watch.
best?
They don't take those awards back.
Anyway, I think that brings us to the end of another show. Thank you very much for listening. I've been Franco.
I've been Brother Jason.
I am Dean. That's a very bad time to make that joke after about the church.
Au revoir.